Hello, and welcome to Team 3's Doing Business in China. Before we begin, let's watch this brief video. It'll help give you a visual of what China's all about.
When discussing the potential of doing business in China, it's very helpful to cover the pastel model. In this video, we will go over each topic in depth. But first, let's review some of the basic facts about China and its demographics. China is a large and culturally and ecologically diverse land. The climate is extremely varied, ranging from tropical in the south, to subarctic in the northern regions, to the Gobi Desert in the west. In total area, it is about the fourth largest country in the world, and is slightly smaller than the United States, covering over 9.5 million square kilometers. In addition, China consists of 22 provinces, 56 ethnic groups, and 7 main languages, with Mandarin being the most popular. China got its start as an ancient civilization, which grew into several dynasties, then grew into an empire, grew further into a republic, and finally became its present-day form of the People's Republic of China on October 1st, 1949. And grow and grow and grow it has. China is the most populated country in the world with over 1.3 billion residents, making up almost 20% of the world population. United States, respectively, only has about 4.5%. Moving on, let's discuss the political situation in China. China, or officially the People's Republic of China, has consisted as a communist state since 1949. The president and vice president are indirectly elected by the National People's Congress for a 5-year term and are eligible for a second term. The last election was held in March 2013, with the next being scheduled for March 2018. The National People's Congress, in turn, is indirectly elected by municipal, regional, and provincial People's Congress, as well as the People's Liberation Army. Members serve 5-year terms. The highest court in the judicial system is the Supreme People's Court, which consists of over 340 judges. Although the Chinese Communist Party has ruled with a strong hand, some unrest began in the 1970s and 80s. Most of the protests and demonstrations were put down, as in the case of Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. This unrest, coupled with China's deep corruption and a need for social reforms, has created an unstable political environment. However, some economic and social controls have started to be relaxed. Political freedom is still held very tightly and regulated by the government. Censorship of political speech and information, most notably on the internet, are routinely used to prevent collective action. Freedom House's annual freedom rating lists China as not free, and a freedom rating of 6.5, civil liberties at 6, and a 7 for political rights, keeping China still one of the least free countries in the world. Although progress has been very slow for political freedom in China, economically China has started to make a few strides. It is still given a rating of 52.7, or mostly unfree, on the 2015 Index of Economic Freedom, but the GDP is growing at a rate of 7.7%. That's compared to 1.9% for the US. China's GDP purchasing power parity is still below that of the US's approximately $17 trillion, but is getting closer each year, now rounding out to about $13 trillion. It has also a lower unemployment rate as well as a public debt than the United States. China is number one in the world in exports and number three in the world in imports. The United States, conversely, is number three in exports and number one. China's average tariff is 4.1%. Export taxes, subsidies to state-owned enterprises, anti-dumping barriers, and other measures are a restriction to trades. The government screens foreign investment and still tightly controls the financial system. China is second in the world as an emerging market for the technology sector, which will be discussed more in depth later on in this presentation. Finally, the Chinese yuan is currently exchanging at 6.373 for every US dollar.
Let's look at the social and cultural aspects of doing business in China. If you look at the Hofstede's cultural dimensions chart, start off with power distance. China scores 80 compared to the United States, which scores 40. China is accepting of power inequality. They show respect to status, age, and ranking. Individualism, China scores 20. United States scores 91. When it comes to individualism, China is more of a collective culture. They show interest of the group and not individuals themselves. Masculinity, China scores 66 compared to the United States, which scores 62. They are highly competitive, success-driven. Uncertainty avoidance, China scores 30. United States scores 46. As you can see from that, they are comfortable with uncertainty. When it comes to long-term orientation, China has a high score of 87 compared to the United States of 26. They are a pragmatic culture. They focus on the future. And when it comes to the truth, it depends on context and time. Last but not least, indulgence. China scores 24 compared to the United States, which scores a 68. China is a restrained society. They participate in few activities and they express less happiness in the workplace. Now let's look at a few do's and don'ts of doing business in China. Do show respect for people, including status, job titles, age. Goes back to the power distance where they rank high. Do be prepared to field questions, personal questions that is, including topics about family and money. Do learn to use chopsticks if you don't already know how to use them. This will be beneficial when having lunches and dinners. Do learn about important Chinese holidays, especially the Chinese New Year's. This shows a sign of respect that you know about their holidays. Now let's look at the don'ts. Don't criticize the Chinese government and Communist Party. This is disrespectful in the Chinese culture. Don't refuse gestures of hospitality, including invitations to banquets and other social functions. These are great opportunities to build relationships. And when it comes to doing business in China, building relationships is important. And last but not least, don't assume the modern westernized Chinese people have the same values as you do, because they don't necessarily. We'll now look at technology in China.
China is the second largest market to lead tech sector for 2015, which includes audio products, multimedia, headsets, mobile handsets, PCs, tablets, netbooks, camera, camcorders, printing, and TV products. There are many new technologies coming. Some are smartphone upgrades, better smartphone batteries, drones, and 3D printing. Compared to the US, China sold over 200 million smartphones in 2014, while the US only sold a little less than 50 million. China also leads in smartphone upgrades in 2014 compared to the US. China leads the emerging mobile internet era in 2014. Compared to the US, China is also the second largest in using the white box tablet shipments, which are generic tablets you find in your local stores. Chinese internet users spend about 3.1 hours a day online, compared to US users who spend about 5.6 hours. The global average for internet use in East Asia is 51%, while in the US it's 88%. The US is a very social market.
The L in pastel is for legal. Let's dive into China's legal system.
The legal system in China is defined as a socialist legal system. The current system adapted in 1982, and revisions were done in 1988, 1993, 1999, and 2004. There are 4 levels in the court system in China: the grassroots, intermediate, higher and supreme people's courts, in addition to special courts which include maritime, military, railway, and forest courts. It's based primarily on the civil law model.
Let's look at the environmental challenges in China. According to the Environmental Performance Index, China's overall score is a 43 and is ranked 118th out of 178 countries, compared to the United States, which scores a 67.5 and is ranked 33rd. One of the major environmental challenges in China is air pollution. Manufacturing, Beijing's 5 million plus vehicles, and a large number of power plants are the key factors that contribute to the air pollution. However, the government has installed new programs and tighter regulations to help improve the air quality in China. A second environmental challenge is water pollution. 77% of 26 key lakes and reservoirs are non-fit for human contact. 50% of groundwater in cities are non-fit for human contact, and 43% of 7 major river basins are non-fit for human contact. 65% of the meat consumed in China is pork. Therefore, there is a large hog population. On a daily basis, you can see thousands of dead livestock floating down the rivers. This causes a problem for the environmental water quality in China. Also, there is a large number of wastes from industrial manufacturing. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and many other emissions are out of control in China. China ranks 109th out of 178 countries when it comes to water quality. Let's look at a SWOT analysis of doing business in China. We'll start off with the strengths. There's an available low-cost labor workforce in China. This is good for keeping costs down and finding the workforce to conduct business. There's an available technically competent workforce, which is great for business. This may lead to less training and immediate impact for those coming into the business. There's a stable investment market compared to many other countries, which is good for business. Stability is key. There's a low corporate tax, which is always beneficial for a corporation. And foreigners can own 100% in foreign investments. This is great. Bringing FDI into China and being able to own 100% of it is key. You have more control of your business and financial. Look at the weaknesses. There's undercapitalized banks in China. It may be difficult to find upfront capital or operating capital, but it's not impossible. There's an oversupply of residential property resulting in ghost cities. The costs for telecommunication are high, so if your company or business requires a high level of telecommunication, you'll be paying a high price for that. There's also frequent electricity blackouts, so this could impact the business if there's a blackout and power is necessary to run your business, which most are. Now the opportunities. 100 million expected to move into the cities by 2020, so it'll be a high population, more consumers in the city. Got the Shanghai to Hong Kong Connect. And then there's also potential agreements with other exchanges. The threats in China is the East China East dispute, which is a dispute between Japan, China, Korea. This could have an impact in business when it comes to importing and exporting, potential tariff implications. Also, China won't be able to shake the perception that it's corrupt. So having a business in China could also have the same perception. And then there's also many rich Chinese planning to leave the country. And with that, they're taking their wealth with them. So less money in the country itself. That wraps up doing business in China. In summary, you've seen the political, economical, social, cultural, technological, legal, and environmental aspects of doing business in China. We hope this was helpful for you to make a decision to start up a business in China.